NCIS Origins will take a different course, thanks to Mark Harmon. The seasoned actor portrayed the legendary Leroy Jethro Gibbs character in the original NCIS series that spun off from the 1990s legal procedural JAG. The NCIS Origins prequel will explore the origin story of Mark Harmon's character, but the catch is that the series will go back in time to explore how the special agent in charge came to be. Austin Stoll took over the role of Jethro Gibbs for the prequel series, and he will form a new Gibbs persona as he starts at NIS at California's Camp Pendleton. The original actor portrayed Leroy Jethro Gibbs on the flagship for years until Mark Harmon exited NCIS in season 19. While the actor stepped away from the role in 2021, Harmon remains ingrained in the NCIS franchise, working as an executive producer for the flagship series even after his departure. He holds the same role on NCIS Origins alongside his son, Sean Harmon. As such, Mark Harmon has sizable leverage on how the prequel series turns out and has undoubtedly exercised it. However, Harmon used his leverage to give Stoll freedom with the Jethro Gibbs role. As an executive producer for NCIS Origins, Mark Harmon has had opportunities to impart wisdom to his successor. In an August 2024 TV Insider interview, the NCIS Origins young Gibbs actor revealed Harmon's advice for playing the character was simple: trust yourself. The words are powerful, especially from someone with an established presence as the character. Mark Harmon would have every authority, as executive producer and the original Gibbs actor, to try to control the next installment of the character. Instead, his comment suggests he wants Austin Stoll to make the role his own rather than copy his performance. The vote of confidence that Mark Harmon trusts Austin Stoll is significant, coming from someone who has played the role for nearly 2 decades, and Stoll is aware of Harmon's massive presence as the character. Stoll said, "Mark Harmon has done a job that actors dream to do, and the way he captured the world as Jethro Gibbs." Another comment Stoll made during the interview suggests he understood and will apply Harmon's advice. This is not the Gibbs leader that the world knows now. Stoll's understanding of the role's complexity is promising for his success. Austin Stoll's interpretation of the role strikes the right balance. Austin Stoll has researched the Gibbs character and understands Mark Harmon's impressive contributions to television as Jethro Gibbs. Still, Stoll understands that the Gibbs of NCIS Origins is different. That's good for NCIS Origins because while the character has an established presence, Gibbs would have been an entirely different person a dozen years earlier than in 2003 when NCIS debuted. Stoll's variant of the Gibbs character will encompass what happened to Gibbs' family in NCIS, with NCIS Origins exploring how that tragedy affected the future NCIS leader. In the dimly lit confines of the Naval Criminal Investigative Services headquarters, a young and determined Leroy Jethro Gibbs, freshly minted as an NCIS special agent, was seated behind his desk, sifting through a pile of case files. The year was 1980, and the world of NCIS was different. No longer was it the well-oiled machine seen in the more modern era, but a growing and evolving agency with its own set of challenges and idiosyncrasies. The mantle of Gibbs had always been one of a steely resolve, the kind of character that held a mystery behind every stare and a story behind every scar. Mark Harmon had embodied this character for nearly 2 decades, leaving an indelible mark on the show's legacy. However, an asterisk NCIS Origins. As production began, the actor found himself in the unenviable position of stepping into the shoes of a television legend. The pressure was immense, and the expectations were higher still. However, Mark Harmon, who had been brought on as an executive producer and advisor for the prequel, knew exactly what the young actor needed: guidance, not to replicate Gibbs, but to understand him. The masterclass from Harmon. One day, in the quiet of an old soundstage on the Paramount lot, Harmon invited the young actor to join him for a cup of coffee. It wasn't just any ordinary meeting, but a passing of the torch, a moment that would shape the new Gibbs for the modern era. "I'm not going to tell you how to play Gibbs," Harmon began, his voice calm but full of authority. "Because you need to find him yourself. But I can tell you who he is, who he was before the world hardened him." Harmon shared stories of Gibbs' past, stories that hadn't made it into the scripts but were always part of the character's backstory. Harmon spoke of a Gibbs who was a little more open, a little more idealistic, and a man who believed he could make a real difference in the world. He was a man who had seen the worst of humanity in Vietnam and was now trying to find his place in a country that was grappling with its own identity. Gibbs didn't start out as the man who would one day lead a team with the weight of the world on his shoulders, Harmon explained. He was a man who laughed more, who trusted more, but also a man who was learning that not everything was black and white, that not everyone could be saved. Crafting a new, yet familiar Gibbs. Armed with this insight, the young actor began to craft his version of Gibbs. This Gibbs was less grizzled, his smiles came a bit easier, and his belief in justice was not yet tinged with the cynicism that would later come to define him. However, there was still a seriousness to him, a sense of purpose that was unmistakable. On set, the actor often found himself channeling the lessons from Harmon. During scenes where Gibbs was interacting with his new team, he allowed himself to be more vulnerable, more approachable than the older Gibbs ever was. There were moments where the young agent struggled with the moral complexities of his cases, questioning whether he was truly cut out for the job. These were the moments where the new Gibbs began to differ most from the version audiences had known for years. Yet, even with these differences, the core of Gibbs remained unchanged. The drive to protect his team, to seek out the truth no matter how painful, and the unyielding loyalty to his country were all still there. What Harmon had taught him wasn't how to mimic the older Gibbs, but how to embody the spirit of the character in a different time, under different circumstances. An evolution of character. As the season progressed, audiences began to see a Gibbs who was not just a younger version of the character they loved, but a man who was still evolving. His experiences in NCIS Origins would lay the foundation for the hardened, rule-bound leader he would eventually become. One particular episode stood out, where Gibbs, faced with a corrupt officer who had betrayed his own men, had to make a difficult choice. The young Gibbs, still new to the harsh realities of his work, initially wanted to give the officer a chance to redeem himself. But as events unfolded, and the situation grew more dire, Gibbs realized that sometimes, redemption was a luxury not everyone could afford. It was a pivotal moment, one that showcased the turning point where Gibbs began to understand the weight of his responsibilities.